Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Good to be with you. Welcome back. I am meteorologist Marcus Bailey with Wish TV in Indianapolis, episode number 31. Got a quick one here for you today, and before we do that, as we always do, we're going to get to the weather headlines. We got a few interesting things that happened over the last week while we were away from each other that we can chat about. And again, surprise, surprise, headlining is the tropics and the activity that continues to ramp up across the tropics as we have just crossed the halfway point of the hurricane season in the Atlantic here, as we've now moved into the month of September. We're almost halfway through the month of September here. As we're recording this here, the date of my recording is on the 13th. That's a Monday. This will drop on the 15th, which is a Wednesday. And tropical storm warnings and even hurricane watches out for Texas and Louisiana, thanks to another tropical system. This is Nicholas that's coming through. Now, when I was at work in the morning on Wednesday, a lot of the projections were saying that this was going to stay as a tropical storm, that the issue wasn't going to be these crazy winds, and we're going to see the Nicholas intensify to a hurricane. But storm surges, wave heights, I should say, were already estimated between 10 to 15 feet. And that is likely going to get pushed on shore near the Houston area. So some coastal flooding is likely going to be a big issue. In addition to that, there is a lot of rain that's kind of coming along with that system. And so there are now some estimations that the city of Houston could see a month's worth of rain in probably just a couple of days. And this is a city that we have seen had to deal with over the years many flooding issues from tropical systems that have come through southeastern Texas. So that's going to be a concern here over the next couple of days. And not only in southeastern Texas, but this is pretty widespread here, and it's going to be a slow mover as Nicholas kind of makes a jog to the north and east by late week. It looks like coastal Louisiana may have some issues. Now, thankfully, I don't know if New Orleans and that area is going to be hit super, super hard. I think they're going to get rain. But obviously, they're still cleaning up from Ida and the devastation that brought. You'd have to go in the central and western parts of Louisiana where you could see a half a foot to maybe a foot of rainfall. So those areas were not hit quite as hard from Ida moving through as, say, the southeastern portions of Louisiana. But still worth a watch. And it's going to be kind of messy as we go through this middle of the week, as again, we're only halfway home in terms of the Atlantic hurricane season. So we anticipate we may see a little bit more activity. So last week I wrapped up kind of the month of August. I did not, however, read some of the highlights of the summer 2021 recap that the Weather Service put out on their webpage. I don't know if it would have been done yet or not. I don't think it was done at that point when we recorded this last. But again, so we've talked about this before. Obviously, the Weather Service likes to keep things nice and neat and organized. So the seasons are broken down by calendar months as opposed to what we would anticipate the fall season to start on the equinox, which is coming up here next week. Fall officially began from meteorology perspectives here on September 1st. So summer months are June, July, August. Okay, it just keeps things nice and neat. So, kind of the main headlines here. Summer 2021 review. This comes again from the Weather Service in Indianapolis. And so this is specific for Indy, but I will hit up on some other reporting station cities as well. Tied for the 29th warmest, and it was the 21st wettest. So we're kind of in that upper tier on both temperature and precipitation for the last 3 months for this summer. Looking at some of the stats here, really across the board, at many of the central Indiana reporting stations, the Indy Airport average temperature for the summer, 75.5. That is 1.6 degrees above average. The biggest jump was Lafayette at 75.4 degrees, and that is 3.2 degrees above average. But Bloomington, Muncie, Terre Haute, Shelbyville, even the Eagle Creek Airport, all reporting over a degree and a half above average. So a pretty significant jump statewide. Hottest temperatures that we had. Indianapolis, 94, and we did that 4 times. June 12th, June 18th, August 12th, and August 24th. The hottest temperature that we had in our area, central Indiana, was Lafayette. On June 18th, Lafayette hit 100 degrees. Bloomington, 94 was your hottest day. Muncie was 95. Terre Haute, 96. Same thing with Shelbyville. And Eagle Creek hit 94 back in June and again in August. Precip-wise, and they have an interesting map here, so I know it's hard to kind of describe maps to you, but they have it broken down because if you remember, early on in the meteorological summer months, June through mid-July, so basically the first half of meteorological summer in Indianapolis was exceptionally wet, especially it was front-loaded in the month of June. Once we got into late July and rolling into August, different story. Some of the maps I'm looking at right here highlighted areas just southwest of Indianapolis, 17 to 20 inches of rainfall. That was, looks like probably in the southeastern portions of Owen County where that was bullseyed, west of Bloomington. So again, that is the first half of the summer months, all right? So June through mid-July. And then you roll into the second half, and the high spots kind of scattered, but it was 5 inches of rain. Kind of in the same areas. Eastern Owen County, there was another spot in southern Rush. And it looks like Clinton and Tipton counties. No, I'm sorry, Clinton and Howard County. Around 5 inches of rain, but even less than that. Indy at 2 inches. For about a 6-week span. And so we've felt that, right? It's been very, very dry. So it goes to show just how exceptionally wet that first half of the season was. So summer precip data for Indianapolis, 15.84 inches, June, July, August. That was 3 1/4 on the plus side. The greatest rainfall was June 1st. If we remember, boy, we opened up the month of June with just some heavy rain. And we picked up 2 3/4 inches of rainfall in Indianapolis on that day. Lafayette actually reported below average precipitation, 11.37 inches. Terre Haute was on the plus side of 3 inches with the heaviest rain on June 19th at 3 1/2 inches of rainfall. So an interesting summer. Definitely, I mean, it's not one for the record books, but leaning, top 30 in both cases. So interesting to see that. We have kind of touched on the severe weather stuff, so I'm not going to hint on that, but that is also in the report on some of the severe weather days that we had individually for June, July, and August. And then lastly, they have the miscellaneous weather. Maximum wind gusts in Indianapolis for June was 59 miles per hour. It was the only or lone severe weather report of that day, with marginally severe storms that passed over the airport. Shelbyville recorded a gust of 68 miles per hour. Fog was reported in Indianapolis on 11 days during the month. No dense fog reported during the month of June, which I think is kind of exceptional given the fact of how much rain we had. July, maximum wind gust in Indianapolis was 46 miles per hour on the 15th. No other reports there. Haze from smoke was unusually common over central Indiana in the month of July due to upstream forest fires over both the northwestern U.S. near the southern Saskatchewan-Manitoba border. Well, at least optically thin haze was occasionally found over much of the region from the 4th onward. It was not until surface high pressure tracked from south central Canada into Indiana on the 21st that widespread smoke then reached the surface. Visibilities dropped to a persistent 4 to 6 miles during the day and much of the evening. Smoke-based haze continued to occasionally reduce visibility through the remainder of the month, especially when under the subsidence of areas of high pressure. Visibilities as low as 2 miles was reported at times of calm winds near Vincennes on the 21st, as well as Indianapolis Eagle Creek early on the evening of the 23rd. For August, and I think we touched on this a little bit last podcast, Indy featured a maximum wind gust at the Indianapolis International Airport at 41 miles per hour on the 12th. Greatest peak wind gusts at other first-order reports included 48 in Muncie, 20 on the 29th, 43 from both Lafayette and Bloomington, 12th and the 27th, respectively. Fog was reported in Indy on 11 of the days of the month. Lastly, just kind of summarizing things here. Let's see. Broken down the months. Actually, I'll just do the whole summer summary here. Indianapolis Summer 2021 summary. We mentioned the 75.5 average temp was plus 1.2 above average, and the precip we were 3.25 above average. Highs greater than 90 degrees, 17 days, and that is average. So we were par for the course. Where it gets interesting, and I think, we may need to talk to some sort of plant expert here because I think they would obviously know much better than me. But just from people that I've talked to, and I get very interested in this, where we get a lot of stress on lawns, on plants, isn't always, severe high heat in the afternoons. It's the very warm temperatures that we have in the evenings that don't allow plants to kind of get a break from heat. You need some maybe cooler nights. For example, for the summer 2021, lows that were greater than 70 were at 34. We should average 22, so we were on the plus side of 12 days that we had lows that didn't get below 70 degrees. And many of you remember when we kind of went through the heart of that heat spell in late July and early August, a lot of those lows didn't even get below 75. That's tough. That's tough. It's a hard thing to wake up to in the morning, and I'm sure it's not easy on the plants. So maybe we'll talk to some sort of botanist or something like that, just out of curiosity, to see how that can impact plants. Remember, we're talking to Mike Ryan in one of our interviews. Tara Hastings had hosted that, and he said, that the average temperatures now for the summer and really all across the board have gone up, but it wasn't because of our high temperatures. It was because our low temperatures were starting to go up. So the base was climbing, right? And that was pushing the average temperature up. So something to watch for here, climatologically speaking. Quick notes here first before we get to the break here. Space weather, we haven't talked about that in a little bit. A few things you want to keep an eye on here. The Andromeda Galaxy is visible here early in the month. It's the largest galaxy in our celestial neighborhood. It is comprised of more than twice as many stars as the Milky Way, the galaxy that is home to our solar system. Despite its size, it can be tricky to see as it swirls 2.5 million light years away from Earth. Now, if you want to see this, stargazers can use a method called star hopping. This is when you use a brighter star or constellation to help find the dimmer object. I'm going to mispronounce this, and I apologize. Cassiopeia is a great constellation to help direct people toward the faint Andromeda. The upper angle of the W-shaped constellation forms an arrow that points directly at the galaxy. Cassiopeia rises in the northeast after sunset and is visible all night long. And so this new galaxy, or this galaxy, will look like a fuzzy cloud as opposed to a single point of light. But in that cloud is a sea of countless stars, planets, moons, and potentially even, could it be E.T.? No, we're not going to get into that. Article comes from AccuWeather, by the way. Okay. Harvest Moon, September 20th. One of the final nights of astronomical summer will also feature one of the most popular full moons of the year. Stepping outside shortly after sunset, Monday, September 20th, will be able to see the Harvest Moon, provided that it is not cloudy overhead. The Harvest Moon is the full moon that rises closest to the September equinox, which is this year takes place just days after this month's full moon. And then the equinox, which you can't necessarily go outside to look at, but it is happening just a couple of days after that harvest moon. September marks the changing of the seasons, officially starting autumn. Astronomical autumn will officially begin in the northern hemisphere at 3:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, September 22nd, while the southern hemisphere transitions to spring. This is different than meteorological autumn, which, as we talked about, begins on September 1st. At the precise moment of the autumnal equinox, which marks the beginning of his astronomical fall, the sun's most direct rays are focused on the equator. As a result, the day and the following night will be about equal around the entire globe, both lasting around 12 hours. That's it. That's all the Space Weather app for the month of September, but a few things you can check out. September usually stays pretty warm enough that you can check out some of those neat celestial things outside. Coming up, I know we're almost halfway through the month, but because of what happened with Ida, we had to kind of skip ahead a little bit with that. We're going to focus on the month of September and what is ahead for us and what is a transitional month. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire? You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Episode number 31, focusing on the month of September, and we're going to make this brief. Obviously, we're already halfway through the month, but just a few notes that I wanted to kind of walk you through. September, definitely a transitional month, right? And we probably feel it a little more so in October, but there are some kind of extremes here. For example, we start the month off with average high of 82, average low of 63. By the end of the month, we average high of 72 and an average low of 52. So you see a pretty big swing there by about 10 degrees on the front end and the back end there, high and low end, I should say. So you do significantly get cooler by the end of the month. We also get a little more cloudy, not exceptionally so. That really starts to come a little bit late in the fall and then heading into the winter when we typically experience grayer days. But we do see a slight downtick in maybe clear skies traditionally as we start going through the end of the month. It also kind of turns a little bit drier, higher end rain chances coming out of August, gets a little bit lower in September. And remember, August is not typically one of the wetter months that we have. Neither is September. And again, we do see a little bit less sunshine. We mentioned that here as we are coming up on the autumnal equinox. And so we start getting less than 12 hours of daylight once we get past that. And our nights will start to get a little bit longer than our days as we start rolling into fall and then deeper into winter. Something else that we bring up a little bit and a couple of interesting notes. According to this website here, it's weatherspark.com for Indianapolis specifically. The humidity levels substantially get better in the month of September, which you would expect because we're coming out of the hot summer months. But we do get a lot more storms, and some of those storms a lot of times are supplied either by, former tropical systems, hurricanes, that sort of thing. Sometimes you'll get a pull from the south and west that comes off the Gulf, which is where we'll get some of our humid days from. But as we get deeper into the season, our humidity goes down quite a bit in terms of oppressive humidity and high dew points and stuff like that. So it looks like we've kind of crossed that threshold. Although this current week, we've been up in the near 90 range and our dew points have been in the mid 60s. Not overly oppressive, but certainly notable for mid-September. But we do get kind of some relief as we get deeper into the month, and then heading into October, we're deeper into fall, and you're really starting to see those temperatures cool a bit. No surprise here, your average wind speeds do go up gradually as we go later into the month. Early on, average wind speed around 7 miles per hour. It's averaging close to 8.5. I mean, it's not a significant jump, but, whenever you're in a transitional period, you are going to get some of those gustier winds at times and have those days that will bring up your average. So September and October, along with probably March and, February, late February, and then in March, and potentially part of April are probably going to be some of your windier months because those are so much transitional phases where you're coming either out of warm and going into cold or vice versa. All right. Coming from the Weather Service in Indianapolis, some of this date in history. We'll hit up on a few. Not all of these are going to be extremely notable. For the month of September, not typically known for severe weather. So let's get to it. 2003 on the 1st, greatest 24-hour measured rainfall in the city, 7.2 inches of rainfall. So the wettest 24-hour span in Indianapolis happened during the month of September. That was 2003. And no surprise to this, and I do remember this, and I'm sure probably many of you do now that I'm thinking back. This would have been in my college years here. On the 2nd, same year, 2003, the highest flood since March of 1913 quickly strikes the Martinsville area following the heavy rains of the 1st. On the 3rd, in 1975, this is interesting, in Indianapolis, the fire department reported 350 calls for lightning strikes. In 1895, on the 4th, in Indianapolis, the second greatest 24-hour measured rainfall in the city of 6.8 inches fell. So you have two of the greatest 24-hour rainfall totals happening in early September. One not that long ago, back in 2003. You have to roll with me here a little bit, guys. I am fighting allergies like mad right now. So if you hear me sniffling a lot, I apologize. I'm not trying to do it into the microphone, but it's been a rough couple of weeks with some of these fall allergies that are popping up. I've struggled with it my entire life, and some days are a little bit better than others. Today's not a great day. Let's go down here the line. Trying to find some interesting stuff here. Let's see. September 8th, 1989, severe thunderstorms, winds blows off roofs of several homes in Albany. That's up in Delaware County, just northeast of Indianapolis. 2014, severe thunderstorms bring damaging winds and heavy rain to parts of central Indiana. Parts of I-74 in Marion County had flooding up to 2 feet deep. On the 11th in 1897 in Indianapolis, the record high temperature for the date is set at 95 degrees. In 1988, on the 12th, Indy to Anderson, a tornado skipped along a 35-mile-long path, causing damage to businesses. In 2008, on the 14th, the remnants of Hurricane Ike bring winds over 60 miles per hour over central Indiana. I do remember that. I believe that was my first year in Peoria, and we had the remnants of that system as well, and it also created some big flooding issues for us. On the 16th, 1939, in Indianapolis, the record high temperature for the date was set at 96 degrees. Let's see. Interesting stat here. On the 19th, 1983, in Indy, the high temperature reached 92 degrees. This marked the 58th time the temperature reached 90 degrees in 1983, which is a city record for most times in a year. Compare that to, and we thought, we had our hot bouts. We only hit 90 or higher 17 times this year. Let's see here. In 2002, on the 20th, the tornado moves 112 miles across Indiana, becoming the second longest tornado track in Indiana history. The tornado begins in Ellettsville at 12:59 p.m. and ends near Hartford City at 3:20 p.m. Property damage is $156 million, and 130 people were injured. On the 22nd, 1908, at Indianapolis, measurable rain falls, ending the 39 consecutive day dry spell, which is a city record for the longest dry spell. That's very interesting. In 2005, on the 24th, in Martinsville, heavy rain caused mudslides, damaging 2 vehicles. In 1976, on the 26th, a tornado touched down in Seymour, killing 1 person. In 1999, on the 28th, severe thunderstorms bring an EF1 tornado to Tippecanoe County. Wind gusts over 100 miles per hour are also reported in the county, along with golf ball-sized hail. And then on the other end, on the 30th, 1899, in Indianapolis, the earliest fall freeze record is set with a low of 30 degrees. The record is tied in 1993 when the temperature drops to 32 degrees. And just last year, on the 30th, at Indianapolis, with just 0.12 inches of rain, September 2020 becomes the driest September on record. So those are some of the highlights there. For the month of September, there is one thing that I did want to kind of check out here. For the month of September, this is the last month that we do not average any measurable snowfall. Although, and in case you were wondering, like I said, we don't average snowfall. Never had a snow in September. The earliest measurable snow comes in October, so that is next month, and we will focus on that in our October preview podcast, which is about 2 weeks away. So that's what we have to look forward to. September, again, a transitional month. Not overly active. Again, like any month, we can't have severe weather, as you can see, it can be wet at times, but typically not one of the wetter months that we have, not one of the more active, severe weather months that we have, but it can give you a host of just a little bit of everything. A bit of heat, a bit of chill, some rain, some severe weather. So we'll keep an eye on it, as we are already, once this podcast drops, halfway through this month of September. And already we're pushing close to a third of the way through meteorological fall. We are flying by. We will talk about that forecast, which doesn't look like it's going to be cooling down anytime soon. For the middle of September, that's coming up next year on Weather Weekly. All right, quick look at your forecast here for the week of September 13th. And this has been an unusual week because we are running well above average for most days. Earlier in the week, we had numbers near 90. Did have some thunderstorms rolling through Tuesday night with a cold front and some showers on Wednesday. That should scale our temperatures back. Low 80s for Wednesday, and Thursday with just a spotty rain chance heading into Thursday. Looks dry as we head into Friday. Look, this cool down doesn't last. You're likely going to see mid-80s returning for Friday to wrap up the work week. And I think we're probably pretty steamy heading into the weekend. Well above average temperatures with numbers close to 90 for Saturday and Sunday and into the mid-80s on Monday. And I'm keeping us pretty much precip free all the way through the 8-day forecast. 6 to 10-day temperature outlook, no surprise. Above average temperature is pretty good shot for it, and there is a chance for some above average precipitation. 8 to 14-day outlook also looking above average with both temperature and precipitation as well. And we look ahead to the fall outlook here, which will take us all the way to the beginning of December. Above average temperatures and an equal chance for below or above precipitation. So, something to look forward to here as we start rolling through. And again, we do have a La Nina watch as we're starting to get closer to the fall and winter. And as we are getting closer to that, we'll be talking more and more about what that could mean for our upcoming late fall and winter season. Before we wrap things up, of course, we always invite you to post your suggestions on what you would like to hear on the podcast. Email me anytime at marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. You can also reach me on the socials. Marcus Bailey Weather is what you look for on Facebook and at Twitter and Instagram at Marcus Bailey. And I'd love to hear your comments, complaints, concerns, suggestions, all of that fun stuff. Hope you can join us next week for episode number 32. Still working on what we're going to do for that one, but hopefully it'll be another good one here. And we hope to have you along again with us here for another one of Weather Weekly, part of the great team and the other great podcasts you should check out right now on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.